Hi, welcome to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brie. I'm a doctor of psychology, financial educator, astrologer, and founder of Forecasting for Success, a community of people improving their financial literacy to achieve financial independence. I blend my expertise as a former professor and financial intelligence analyst with the tool of astrology to help break down why you are struggling with specific money habits and the best way to form more intentional responses and choices when it comes to money, especially to help you feel more secure in your financial decisions and improve your money skills for building long-term wealth. Hello, welcome back to the Forecasting for Success podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm speaking with creative wellness guide and soulful brand designer Isabel Bagsik. I'm excited for you to hear this episode because her expertise is quite unique, and you can hear her Venus energy throughout her story and the way in which she guides her clients. And I encourage you to share this episode with your close family and friends who can also benefit from what Isabel shares. Okay, with that, let's get started. So, hello and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Absolutely. So today we have with us Isabel Bagsik, and she's here to share her amazing expertise that I actually haven't heard before. I'm so interested in you and what you do. So if you could please introduce yourself and also your area of expertise.
Yes. So, hello everyone. I'm Isabel Bagsik. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a Filipino American soulful brand designer. And so, what does that mean? I really love blending intuitive branding rituals with traditional design and brand strategy together. And so really getting deep into connecting with your intuition and connecting with the essence of your brand through different intuitive practices and ceremony. And then taking that as your foundation to bring your vision, your branding essence into the digital world.
That's incredible. I would be so curious to hear just your life path or your life story of how you came to be an expert in this very unique area.
Yeah, so I've always been creative since I could remember, since I was a child, doing arts and crafts. And it wasn't until I hit like high school where I was taking this advanced art studio class, and it was time to decide what to study in college. And it wasn't encouraged, but it also wasn't discouraged to pursue anything creative until I was thinking about what I was applying for and having those conversations with my parents and having those tough conversations and realizing I don't want to study or do science or math or anything like that for the long run, but I can see myself doing something creative for forever. It was now figuring out, okay, what's quote unquote stable, as a career that allows me to be creative. And so I was led to design and thinking that website design was like the only thing out there that was a conventional job, let's say. And so eventually I did go on to study that, and it was tough to get my immigrant parents, especially my dad, who's a software engineer who doesn't understand the arts, to get comfortable with that. There was a compromise of me minoring computer science. Then I realized I cannot, my brain does not work like that, leading to probably a panic attack during a review session for an exam, having an emotional moment with my parents to reveal I can't do this. And because as the oldest daughter, um,
Ooh, layers.
I did not cry much. I'm only starting to get soft these past couple years. But when they saw that I was crying, they probably were freaking out, like, oh, something's wrong.
It's serious this time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was really grateful because when I revealed that I couldn't do it anymore. And it was only like mid mid year of my first year in college. And my dad told me, and I still remember this, that I just want you to be happy. As long as you work hard, you can do whatever it is you want. And that was my motivation the next 4 years. And still to this day, I try to remember that. And so I really proved myself in finding any opportunity I could on campus to practice design, whether it was my on-campus job as a graphics designer for a student center or being the designer for my on-campus Filipinx American community, creating and designing the t-shirt and merch and programs for retreats and things like that. So it was starting to guide me towards design for social impact as well because of the on-campus clubs and communities that I was designing for, particularly underrepresented communities. And then that continued on that passion after college as well. And during that time, I started diving more into learning of pre-colonial spirituality of my
Mhm.
culture. And a lot of it was connected to animism and connecting back to nature and getting interested in mysticism and
Mhm.
oracle cards and astrology. And so that was a personal practice that I ended up getting curious on how to blend that into design. And when I was thinking about when I wanted to pursue my own business after being in the design industry for over a decade, I wanted to approach it in a different way. It was a particular process and very somewhat rigid in a way that didn't work for my creativity. And I was experimenting it with myself in bringing in meditation and using oracle cards and other different practices that allow my creativity and ideas to come through much more immediately, more easily, more fun, instead of racking my brain and forcing creative solutions like I was doing at work. And then I started testing it out, experimenting with it with other folks through workshops and one-on-one sessions. And eventually, my first free challenge that really started my framework around this. And the first time that I put out that challenge, the Intuitive Brand Refresh, there was like almost 100 people who signed up. And there was such
Wow.
an incredible feedback and transformation and responses just from those very simple practices over 3 days. And so it guided me to continue getting this affirmation that there's something here that is landing with folks. And so it's continued to ignite this fire in me. And there's more that I'm excited to explore and offer folks that continues to guide them to liberate their expression, essentially. It's not just branding and design, though that is the avenue that I am supporting folks through. But at the end of the day, it's really being able to support them to liberate their expression, to feel courageous, to be seen, especially on the online space, and really get their medicine, their gifts out to the world.
That's incredible. And first, I do want to say I'm actually really happy for you that your family was open to listening to you and supported you, because I understand that for many cultures that can be quite challenging, that can be quite difficult to not have the support and understanding of your family. So I'm really happy that that was your experience. And
Mhm.
second, I think it's amazing that you found this natural way to have intuitive led tools and to help teach others intuitive led skills. Because to me, that speaks to our like raw energy, like our raw ideas that are inside of us. And a lot of people have trouble listening to that or connecting to that because we're either not taught or in some instances discouraged because it doesn't fit into a box. It doesn't align with perhaps the system, regardless of what systems that may be, our societal systems, our cultural systems, or even community type systems. It just depends again on where the person may be. So this is really important work that you're doing. And I'm so happy to hear that this is your path, not only for you to develop your expertise, but also be willing to share it with others.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. When it comes to helping people identify with their intuition or helping teach others these intuition-led skills, how do you do that? What is your process for helping teach people what this means and how to identify this within themselves?
Yeah. So this can look like a variety of ways depending on the particular offering that I guide folks through, whether it's like a group or one-on-one. But essentially, it boils down to a few typical go-to branding rituals that I support them through. So oftentimes I like to start off with a meditation, and the prompt or the visualization gets adjusted depending on what we're working through, but that allows them to really practice developing their inner vision and being able to craft what it is that is coming through for them and connecting with their intuition. Because, especially, and I've loved doing this when I've helped one on one clients in doing custom branding work, where it can be tough to figure out what are their brand colors, for example. But when I guide them through some abstract, more visceral kind of visualizations, it really paints a larger picture or developing this brand ecosystem or this brand world, their world building essentially, and connecting with who it is that they want to support, their dream clients and such. And so it isn't just colors that they do walk away with, but there's even more to it, more symbology, some oftentimes this felt emotional sense, the people that they might see. So it's amazing to know what they reflect on or saw after, let's say, a 10-minute meditation versus some folks, even me included, when I didn't bring this tool in, this modality in, where it would take me so long to figure out what are the right brand colors for this client or for this project. But by doing this, it really allows in the first thought, the first things to come to mind of what it is that feels true to what they're trying to build. And it comes so clearly to there isn't this self-doubt that happens that leads to people spending hours or days or even like months to keep changing their brand colors and switching it up on Canva every so often. It really lands so deeply and with this really grounded conviction for that, for example, for the brand colors. And so that's something that I love bringing folks and guiding folks through. And then other branding rituals that I guide them through are bringing in either tarot or oracle cards, because that's another divination tool of connecting with your intuition.
Mhm.
Because we can go through a few different prompts to, let's say, unblock certain things that they're moving through that they may not know yet through their conscious mind and connecting with the subconscious or their intuition or their guides of what it is that, what messages do they need to be reminded of or to hear, even if it's like tough love or maybe it's an affirmation.
Mhm.
And so I love doing that as well, either guiding them through using their own cards or guiding them with my own deck and supporting them through it. And it's really amazing to support them in that way and thread together the messages from each card and then sometimes combining the messages from the different rituals that we do together. So that's a couple. There's a few more like connecting with our inner child and other techniques that I've supported folks through in different workshops and retreats. But yeah, those are some things that are often brought into my experiences.
That's amazing. And it's so nice that you offer people not only this type of guidance, but also making space. A lot of people do struggle with that, being able to find a very quiet moment where they can try to tune in and listen to their inner child or their intuition on understanding what is it that I'm trying to connect to? What is it that I'm trying to offer with their respective business? And the other thing in my worldview, in my opinion, is that this really speaks to the criticality of artists and the arts in general, just because to me, art is a type of language. So much of human communication and interaction is actually nonverbal. And in my opinion, art is part of that. It's part of communicating with others and sending a message. And so being able to authentically understand what you're feeling on the inside and what you're trying to get to your audience or your respective clients is really important. It all aligns because sometimes if people can't find that quiet moment to try to connect with their inner world and their inner thoughts and what they're doing, it's noticeable that it's not connecting on the outside. And so that I can see where that would be very complicated for someone to not quite have their marketing right or their messaging right to their clients if they haven't truly connected to what's authentic about them and how that is represented in their businesses.
Yeah, no, that's a huge part of it, of being able to connect back to their inner wisdom. Because there's
Mm.
so much out there in terms of getting bogged down by the how-tos online and all of the ways that we see some of the same kind of visual style or branding and let's say other coaches or whatever field that you're in. But the more that you can deepen into yourself and who you are, and the more specific that you can be, and the more bold and courageous you can be in inviting folks into meeting you and getting to know you, that is what stands out. And that makes the marketing and the branding much more easier because you're not trying to fit into a mold or trying to attempt to copy your coach or that famous coach or whatever in your industry because there is no one else that is like you. There is one of one. And so why not let that be seen and shine instead of trying to copy someone's brand photo shoot that doesn't feel right, that feels like a too tight sweater,
Mhm.
or, you're trying to speak in the way that just doesn't feel true to you. So it really is about this remembering of who it is within that wants to speak, that wants to teach, that wants to guide and support, and letting that come through. And a lot of it is taking that space to quiet the external noise and be reminded of the gifts that you have within, and also having the courage and the safety within your body to be seen by others, because that's another big part of it as well around the branding conversation.
100%. And you actually bring up a good point. Could you actually speak more to that, more what it means to show up as a leader with an authentic voice or to be a visionary whenever it comes to your own messaging and branding, and what it is about your presence with your clients that helps them understand that process and connect to that process to help them get to the next steps? Because some people may not have heard this before. I believe your offerings speak to it as like a heart-led visionary or a heart-led founder. So I would actually love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So around this, I think a lot of it, when I guide folks through some of these practices, and I just finished the first cohort of my group program, Visionary Brand Village, where I am guiding them through branding rituals and also bringing in practical design strategy and marketing, where they get to create on their own, and I'm there as a support. And so a lot of it starts off with this feeling of safety within their bodies. I think that's a big part that's important to me, for myself, and for those that I support. Because if we just jump into the how-tos and the templates and all of that, but you still don't feel safe to create or to use your voice or to be seen, then you're just going to continue hiding, or you're
Mhm.
going to post once and then ghost your audience for months. And you're going to have this unsustainable approach and relationship to your work. But when we start off with connecting back to reminding your body and reminding your mind that it is safe to be seen, to use your voice, especially thinking about a lot of underrepresented communities and weaving that part in and naming that, of how oppressive systems have made us feel like it is unsafe to be noticed or to have like a spotlight on us. And speaking to that and going through certain practices and support systems and having that community to feel like we are safe, and to continue practicing that throughout, and guiding them back to their agency and using their voice and making decisions is a big part of that practice. That's important to me to be able to support
Mhm.
folks. And so once that has been brought up, and it's going to be a never-ending process. Like even for me, I'll go through layers of hitting an edge and needing to push through, move through a new threshold. So not to say like once we're done with this phase, it's just
Mhm.
having that conversation started so that they know, how to support themselves or who to reach out to. But once we've discussed that, a lot of it then is creating this space to connect with their internal wisdom through these branding rituals, and knowing that they can always reach these practices or, whatever it is that they need to connect back to their inner wisdom, their intuition. And it was amazing because one person from the cohort had DM'd me saying that and showed me their Oracle cards and was saying, "Oh, I just created this post and used the Oracle cards in the ways that we did in the Envisionary Brand Village. And it was so easy. Thank you so much for showing me the way." And that meant the world. Like that, the practices that we did landed so strongly with them. And it's working for them to be able to create content, reach the people that they need to, and share their gifts to their community. And it just warmed my heart to know that, okay, this is working and this is truly helping folks. And so that's another part to it too, of making either content creation or marketing or just expressing your work to your audience in an easeful way that
Mhm.
feels true to you. I'm not providing prescriptive frameworks that are like you have to follow steps 1 through 10. It's really just guiding folks into different ways that they could apply it and adjust it to their own unique creative processes because we all create differently. We all will be expressing ourselves differently because that's just the nature of being unique individual human beings. And so that is what is exciting to me too, to see how they filter it through their particular lens and then express it and create on their own. And so that's another part as well of having that reminder that they have the abilities and the skills to create really powerful, potent branding. And it's just being able to understand certain best practices or some things that I can guide them through in that way. So those are what's coming to mind. But let me know if I answered that question correctly or if I missed anything or if I just veered off.
Oh no, you were spot on. And it's
Okay, great.
actually, yeah, and it's actually really exciting to hear that that's been feedback from people that you've helped because you're right. You're teaching people skills that can evolve with them over time. So
Mhm.
it's really beneficial to know that how the way that you help others helps them not only in the moment, but also taps into something really primal, really authentic within themselves to where they can evolve as their businesses evolve. Because you're right, something might be really spot on for in this moment, but 5 or 10 years from now, the business might need to evolve just as they've evolved. Because one
Exactly.
thing that I like to talk about is how we have personal values, but also business values. And these evolve over time too. So just because you've picked something and gone with something in the moment doesn't mean it has to literally be that way for the rest of your life. Like it's perfectly fine for you to have a new offering in your business or just decide to naturally evolve your business in a new direction. And to your point, the imagery and the artistry around the business would need to also evolve with it as well. So this is incredible that the skills that you help teach people and help them tap into are something that they can come back to over time to make those changes as needed.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's another big part that I name for folks as well. That is a common question that I've heard too, especially creatives or just visionary people who come into my world have this question of, well, it's hard to decide on a brand identity because I'm just so creative. I can't choose. I can't imagine being boxed in to one visual style. And that is why I mention how branding can and should evolve with you because
Mhm.
we're inevitably going to be changing and growing and becoming new people or just like shifting into exploring different things. And so it's about learning these different practices and how they can be able to adapt them for when that happens on their own and that I don't feel comfortable with having someone rely on a coach or a service provider in this very dependent way. And so it's really important for me to be able to support folks in a way that they feel like, again, that they have sovereignty agency around
Mhm.
feeling confident and comfortable and independent for being able to continue this work on their own. And I'm here more so as a guide to support them to this new approach around their expression. Yeah.
That's such a healthy outlook and mindset. And I really respect you for having that approach with your clients. That's fantastic. I think that we would all be much better off if more people had that viewpoint in helping others try to learn how to help themselves. And you're right, they can come back to you as an expert as often as is needed because you're there to help them think out loud about, to your point, their self autonomy, their agency, things of this nature. So that's wonderful to hear.
Thank you. Yeah.
Would you mind speaking more about how you help people have this holistic creative experience, actually, whenever it comes to their autonomy, whenever it comes to their agency and finding their marketing and their artistry around this?
Yeah. So a lot of it, either whether it's one-on-one or in a group, it often comes down to conversation, just open, vulnerable, intimate conversation around what their goals are, or even what challenges that they're moving through. And we talk through what that is. So if they are moving through certain blocks or challenges or fears or frustrations around either their business or their approach to branding and content creation or designing their website, whatever it is, that's a big part that I want to address first. Like I named earlier, to ensure that we can release anything that is feeling either stagnant or just like a block in the way from being able to just express more easily. And so once that's discussed and I provide any recommendations or guide them through certain practices in that moment or for when they're on their own, then we go into discussing more about their business goals or how even they enjoy expressing themselves or what feels already exciting for them, because that's important for me to know, like what do they already know about themselves in terms of creation. So some things like, do you like long form writing, long form content, or short form content, for example? Some people prefer one or the other and know this very well and very deeply about themselves. So if they know that they just feel allergic to social media, but love to yap or love to write long essays, then that's what I'd encourage them to really dive even deeper into. Or if it's the other way around, they just can't sit still to write, and writing a Substack article feels like homework that they just don't want to do anymore. But they love going onto Instagram stories or creating posts regularly, then we dive deeper into that. And so that's really important to know about yourself, of what do you prefer or how do you feel when you think about the difference of long form content versus short form content. And long form also includes like podcasts such as this, or YouTube videos. And then from there, we go into a even more specific of what else about this kind of content creation or marketing or branding feels exciting for you, or what really makes you shrink inside or feels like there's a lot of
Mhm.
tension. Can we lessen that approach or lessen that work for you, or change your approach or reframe it in a different way? And so a lot of it is just having these conversations and getting more specific with questions to learn more about each client, each student, so that we can figure out creative solutions so that it's not this huge laborious task around being able to market themselves, especially those who enjoy doing their branding or prefer to do their branding and marketing on their own and not hiring a team. They're a solo entrepreneur. It's really important to figure out these aspects of you so that entrepreneurship doesn't feel like a drag and you're not, feeling so burnt out all the time. That's huge as well. And aside from the branding and everything else, checking in with what their wellness,
Mhm.
hygiene, and routines are like too. So I'm not here to say that they have to be selling every single day or creating posts all the time. How are they creating boundaries with themselves to rest and to be able to replenish their creative energy? And so, yes, so it's really thinking about all these different aspects of themselves in this holistic manner of their rest, their boundaries with themselves, their particular way of expression, and what that looks like that feels true to them.
That's amazing. And what I'm really hearing is that you help people identify with this feminine led energy, this way of tapping into this divine feminine energy, if you will, in order to find new systems that are healthier. It's much more holistic. Typically, in my experience, that's typical with more feminine led ways of being. And again, that doesn't have anything to do with gender. It's just a masculine and feminine spectrum, if you will, that any person is able to tap into. And it's really exciting for me and quite hopeful, to be honest with you, to help introduce people to different ways of being, a way of being that, in my opinion, is healthier. It's a healthier way to do this. And it's also fantastic to know that you're helping people identify that they don't have to do everything, because it can be quite overwhelming in the online space to feel like you have to do just a little bit of everything. And to your point, we're not experts in everything, and nor should we have to be. So this is wonderful that you're able to help people be more authentic and intentional with where and how they want to show up online. So this is very important work that you do and that you're helping people with.
Yeah, thank you for naming that. I think thinking about the womb energy, whoever, you know, any body who has a womb, it's like thinking about the our cycle, and it's not on this 24/7 cycle that our 9 to 5s are based off of.
Mhm.
It's really seasonal, and it is welcoming in periods of rest and slowness and this gentleness with ourselves and not this hustle culture that we've been socialized into. So yeah, that's a huge part that is also important. So thank you for naming that too.
Yes, 100%. And I think it might be helpful for people listening in case they haven't heard of options like this before. If you could speak a little bit more about how you help people identify with how they're able to be more of a soul-based client or offer more soul-based things to clientele, how they can connect with dream collaborations, things of this nature. It might help get people's ideas turning on what is possible whenever you're speaking about skills like this.
Yeah. So some things that come to mind in terms of how you can connect with or draw in your dream soul clients is how are you? I think a big part of it is like emotion based. So, do you feel like you feel excited about your own work and your own messaging and your own marketing? Or does it feel like you're saying the same things and it's just not inspiring or exciting for you? Are you turned on by your own work? And that's something that I'm continuing to explore and experiment with too and try out with my own messaging and work is are you turned on? Is there like a sensual energy there? Is it seductive in a way that's consensual, of course, but like thinking about how exciting that is, how magnetizing that is when you feel so attuned to your own body, to your own self. And is there a sense of deep presence, really presence within you? And that is felt even through the screen. And when we're so disconnected with our own bodies, and that makes it feel like we're in our minds all the time. When we're disconnected from our bodies, we're disconnected from our intuition, and we're not grounded anymore. And we've all often been socialized into this, again, hustle culture where we're only thinking, we're only using our minds, we're forcing the work and solutions. But I think that's a big part of connecting with ourselves, being present, and is there a turn on with the things that we do? Even in the small things, like can we find excitement, exhilaration, and slowing down with our meals and really tasting our food and slowing down our chewing and being able to be present with the flavors on your tongue and finding that. And so when you can weave moments of that in the mundane, it sharpens your attunement to other parts of your life, especially in your work and how you show up, how you hold yourself, how you speak to people, how your voice sounds and the frequency of your voice when speaking. And so those are some things that come to mind. Oftentimes when we think about like, oh, what do I have to do to connect with my client avatar or ideal client avatar, all these things. It's a lot of that thinking mind that is being encouraged. But how do we sink deeper into our authentic, courageous, most expressed self and letting that be the magnet for people who are drawn to you? Because it's dangerous to think about focusing just on them, but how can you also be true to yourself so that only the people that truly understand your full, whole self will be a true match to you? Kind of like dating too. Like, how do you bring your full self, not being ashamed and being courageous and being your full, spicy, bold self to the forefront and letting that be the lighthouse for people to be like, oh, I've been looking for this person for so long, finally, And obviously, when you get more specific into messaging and whatnot, it is speaking towards the client's ideal transformation and desires and whatnot. But at the heart of it, I think starting off with getting even deeper into attunement and presence with yourself so that there is no shrinking, there is no hiding, but really the flip side of that so that people can find you.
Absolutely. And that really speaks to me heavily with Venus energy. So this is where
Yes.
I get really excited about things like astrology or tarot because I heard so many different themes in there. And what's amazing about that is whenever you work with tarot or astrology with specifically with things like this is because you can bring that in with the client's specific chart or with the specific reading for the client in order to explain to them quite literally what this means for them and how they can do this. So I love how these tools help us get very accurate and pinpoint exactly what the client needs in order to do that for themselves. So it's very exciting that that's part of your offerings as well.
Yeah, I love being able to explore how to work with different parts of my chart. Like we're speaking on Friday and it's a Venusian day. And
Hmm.
like I love being able to think about how to use each day's focus. Like Wednesday is very communicative, mercurial, and I'm a
Hmm.
Gemini sun, Gemini Mercury. And so that really heightens the communication for me and thinking about sending emails that day or like scheduling certain workshops or things like that could be fun.
Hmm.
Or, using other aspects of your chart could be really cool in terms of a way of support to approach your work in a different way or a certain kind of archetype you can try on and play with. Like my Venus is in Cancer, that so very again like that romantic kind of energy and
Hmm.
playing with Venus energy is so fun for me. Yes, so it's very fun to be able to play around with those aspects and I love that your work also brings that in the astrology as well. So yeah, I think it could be really fun to, whether it's astrology or something else, to just
Hmm.
have this archetype that you can play with and kind of put on as a way you can try out ways to express yourself as well if you're still figuring your branding or the way that you are presenting yourself.
Absolutely. I think what also stood out to me about something that you said earlier, too, in going with this theme of how to get more specific and more in alignment with where someone's going, is how to be better at being holistic about it. I love that you help people tap into the specificity and the efficiency of their intuition. But how can you speak more to how they can think intuitively about being holistic about their creative experience, holistic about their branding and their marketing? Because some people might struggle with that. I can understand how that might feel overwhelming to someone, but it doesn't have to be. So I would love to hear more about how you help people in that area.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Those who are non-designers, branding can be very overwhelming. Like I've heard this with some clients who just don't want to deal with figuring that out. And so they come to me and I'm here to support. So thinking about how they can approach their branding, their business in a holistic way, what comes to mind first is thinking about all their senses. And I love being able to guide folks through meditation and connecting with their senses first to bring all parts of them online or alert and aware.
Mhm.
So, can you bring your sight to your smell, your hearing, your taste, your touch to the forefront? and getting curious about focusing on each one in different ways. Then, so thinking about your branding, your business with these senses can be really interesting to play with and to consider either within yourself and applying that, and also how that can apply externally to outreach or marketing. So with sight, like how do you enjoy how you've been presenting yourself or dressing up, or like what can make you feel really confident to be seen, for example, or a sense of smell. I love playing with fragrances, or maybe it's a candle that you have, and having that as a signal to start a work routine or ritual, or even, having a ritual to tune in back to yourself. Different scents can help with, you know, igniting a certain energy. And so that could be fun to experiment with. Or a sense of touch, thinking about the textures of your clothes or wearing natural fibers, or even your environment, your space. Is it clear or is it cluttered? Or so you can get really experimental and creative with how you can weave in your different senses for yourself in terms of getting yourself ready for being for approaching your work. And also, how does that apply to when you're outreaching? So those are some things that are coming to mind in terms of senses. And then in a holistic, like wellness sense, again, thinking about your morning and night routines, because that's a big part. Like I have a sleep app to track how much sleep debt I have, because
Oh.
that's something that I've been working on. And realizing how that is important to be able to catch enough hours of sleep,
Mhm.
to be able to have the sustainable energy to create and to hold space for folks, because that uses up a lot of emotional energy as well. And so there's that, the physical energy, going outside, getting fresh air, rest, movement is also another thing that I've been incorporating more, and knowing that that's important too. But also there's the energetic hygiene as well,
Mhm.
especially for those who are mystical. How do you clear the energy from the space after holding space for others and calling back your own energy and whatever else that you need to do so that you don't feel drained and create resentment for your
Mhm.
own work. That's a huge part as well. Because if we are not taking care of ourselves and our energy and keeping those boundaries of caring for ourselves, then resentment can come up, burnout will come up, and
Mhm.
then it cuts our time and our relationship to our work short. So it's not frivolous at all. Rest and wellness and caring for ourselves is a vital part to our work. And how do we actually ensure that that is to the forefront? Because it is tough. I acknowledge it's tough, and it's something that I continue to work on, knowing that it's deeply ingrained in my lineage, especially the women in my lineage, and seeing it in my mom can't rest and just cannot sit still, because there's still an element of survival there too, especially
Sure.
those thinking about my immigrant parents. There's this
Mhm.
essence of survival or this value around productivity. So it can feel really unfamiliar and unsafe to pause and slow down and rest. And it doesn't have to be like a whole spa day. Can
Mhm.
take a few moments to breathe in between calls? And again, finding those creative solutions for what you have capacity to do, to return back to yourself, to connect with yourself, to ground yourself, and to nurture and nourish yourself.
Absolutely. It's so important. And I agree. It doesn't have to be a very long, prolonged time or ritual. It can be something quite short. And even if it's a short moment in time, it's still very important and it does make a difference. It really does. So whether that's doing 30 seconds of breath work, having a ritual to where you light a little tea light candle, right before bed that helps you transition to getting healthy sleep, whatever someone might need, it really does make a difference, even if it's tiny, even if it's just a moment in time. So it's so important that you help people remember that. And I'm right there with you. I also need healthier habits as well. It's just something I think that's just a part of how things function right now, sadly, because you're right. It's just go, 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 do, do, do. And it's so difficult to carve out those little moments for ourselves, especially if we have other people relying on us, depending upon what our communities or our family structures look like.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's actually, it reminds me of something else that you offer that's important and I think not talked about very often is this type of inner child work or inner child connection, because it speaks back to something you said earlier. Maybe sometimes people have some type of difficulty or blockage, if you will, that they may not even be conscious of. It might be something that happened early on in their life experience. Would you mind speaking for a moment about how you help people connect with their inner child in order to be more authentic and holistic in their offerings?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is something that is so fun for me, and that was such a big part of my own healing journey as well. And so there's one particular practice that I love to invite listeners into that's always fun, and that's a winner in many workshops or spaces and retreat spaces that I've offered this to. And so it's connecting or practicing with this art therapy practice that I've come to learn, and it's this non-dominant hand technique. And
Oh,
so your dominant hand, to provide context, your dominant hand is the hand that you write with normally. So for me, I'm right-handed. I write with my right hand. So that's my dominant hand. So then my non-dominant hand is my left hand. And so what I guide folks through would be asking them a particular prompt, usually around branding or their work or their brand legacy. And they would write the question, the prompt with their dominant hand. And then I'll have them switch to their non-dominant hand and respond and write to that question. And it works best on a physical piece of paper. And they keep writing. You keep writing for a few minutes. So if you're listening, have a timer for like 5 minutes and see what comes through. So usually the prompt could be, what does the message what does the essence of my brand need to tell me right now, for example? So you can use that as your prompt, write that with your dominant hand, and then switch to write and respond to that question with your non-dominant hand for like 3 to 5 minutes. No overthinking, even if it sounds silly or doesn't make sense, or you're writing the same words over and over. And pause this episode and then come back after you've done the practice. And it's always interesting to see what comes through. And also to even look at the page because when you look at it, if you're not ambidextrous, it's going to look like a child wrote it. And it's interesting to hear what comes up for folks every time I bring this up in practice, where there's hesitation or this self-consciousness or this doubt around it because you're doing something uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and unpracticed. It's not going to look good, or this perfectionism comes up. There's also this curiosity in play or emotionality around it because they can see it looks like their younger self wrote it because it looks really messy or kind of awkward and larger letters. Very simple words usually come through. And so it's really beautiful to hear what folks walk away with or what messages come out of this practice. And oftentimes it comes out so potently. Like I just facilitated a brand legacy retreat yesterday, and this is one of the rituals that we did. And this particular client had very simple words, but they were very, very potent as well. Things like piercing, boss, authenticity. Like it was very to the point. And so this practice, the context of it is that it was, I believe, developed by Dr. Lucia Cappuccioni, and this art therapist shared that by using the by using your non-dominant hand, it activates the other part of your brain that is not logical, not linear. And so it's a lot of connecting to either your intuition, your inner child, and this reminder that our brain that holds the problem also holds the answer. So reminding that we have that wisdom within us. And what was also really cool and affirming was that when I introduced this practice, when I was facilitating a retreat for these nonprofit leaders, one of them shared it with, I guess, texted their brother who's in biology or neuroscience, something like that. And he replied back and she told me, he was like, how do you know this? How do you know this practice? Why do you know this? Because I do this every morning to wake up because it's really good for your mind. And so that was cool to know someone, a science professional, also engages in this practice on the regular.
Absolutely. I think that that's an incredible opportunity that is very easy and quick for people to do. It's very doable. And like you said, it really can help you get results. So it's not just an arbitrary practice. It really can help you tap into something that, again, you might not have clarity around. It's a new way for you to do something physically and connect with your body differently, but also listen to your mind differently as well. And that's how we get creative is whenever we try new things and approach things from a different perspective. So thank you so much for sharing that exercise with us.
Yeah, of course.
Are there any other words of wisdom that you would like to share today? Are there aspects of your expertise that you really feel like connects with people and can really help them?
Yeah. Well, I think, thinking about your expression can be a really vulnerable thing, especially when we're thinking about censorship or we're thinking about our safety and sharing our messages or the things that are so strong on our hearts. And so how can we build that courage to connect and share with our communities? And being able to bring your full self is a is an ongoing journey. And one that I've heard that I feel so true is that entrepreneurship is going to be one of the biggest spiritual journeys, transformations and initiations you're going to go on. And it's so true, especially at the beginning. And so it's taking care of yourself and finding your support system to hold you during those difficult moments because we're not meant to do this alone. That is a capitalist ideology on hyper-independence. How do we remember community, that village concept, the being able to support and exchange resources and lean on each other and grow in that way. And I think that's going to be a big part on sustainable growth in your work and, being able to be generous in that way and that it is possible to create new paradigm, new world that is healing, that is supportive, that is community led. And as visionary people, this is our particular role in, you know, creating and paving a new path to this new world that actually benefits the land, each other, and the future descendants. So, yeah, these are just like bigger picture messages that are coming through, not necessarily just for branding, but they can help in terms of envisioning and thinking about what your brand legacy is. What is the legacy that you're here to do with your work? It's not just being a coach or it's not just being an online service provider. I know you got into this because there's a deeper why. And so remembering what that deeper why is and letting that be your North Star to remind yourself why you're even waking up and doing this every day and bringing a sort of reverence to, yes, you are doing important work and it is going to change people's lives.
That's incredible. I really hope the listeners go back and listen to that again because that was definitely very wise and very needed in our world. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. This was such a beautiful conversation and just such a treat to be able to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you online? That way they can work with you.
Yes, so you can find me at Unconventional Bliss on Instagram or unconventionalbliss.com. Again, I'm Isabel Bagsik, and I am really excited to support any of you heart-led, compassionate founders, really guiding you into liberating your expression into your next level of business because your work is not just individual. People are here to see you, find you. And so how can they find you? Really getting into what is your magnetic, bold, authentic brand and expression. And so we can chat, we can figure out what it is that can be supportive for you, whether it's one-on-one work or my group program, Visionary Brand Village. And I also have a free email series challenge, Intuitive Brand Refresh, that you can explore to get a taste of those branding rituals.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for the work that you do, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for joining me this week on Forecasting for Success and let you know that you can read the transcript for each podcast episode on my website, which is linked below in the show notes. I've also included the link to send me your money questions if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast at forecastingforsuccess.com/podcast. And if you're ready to get started on improving your financial literacy and developing your own personalized money plan, I encourage you to join my Forecasting for Success community, where I teach you everything you need to know about budgeting, how to choose your retirement number, how to invest in the stock market, and so much more. I go live in the community each month to check in on your progress and help answer any questions you may have. And it's a supportive community where you can also check in with other members and learn from their experiences as well. I hope you take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.